if Western society really is so rotten with racism, why do anti-racism activists have to make up so many false claims? I mean, there was the Jussie Smollett case, the actor who claimed he was attacked one night by Trump supporters who put a noose around his neck, completely made up. There was the NASCAR driver, Bubba Wallace, the other day, claiming racists left a noose in his garage. Again, fake. And here, Black Lives Matter protesters claim David Dungay was killed in jail by racist warders. In fact, the coroner found the warders were trying to save him and he died of heart trouble and stress and other morbidities. Now, to a very curious case in Britain. Dawn Butler is a Labor MP, used to be its spokesman on equalities, and she now claims she was stopped by racist policemen driving in London with a friend, and the media took her bait.
The Labour MP, Dawn Butler, has told Sky News she believes she was the victim of racial profiling after being stopped by police in her car. She filmed the incident, which happened in the London borough of Hackney. The Met Police are yet to comment. Here's what happened earlier today.
It's an interesting experience, being stopped by the police on the Sunday in town. I've been doing a lot of work with the police and stopping and searching, how the police are stopping and searching. Yeah. And actually the way you do it and the way you profile is wrong, because what you do is you create an environment where you create animosity. So, you know, and it is really quite irritating. So it's like you cannot drive around and enjoy a Sunday afternoon whilst black because you're going to be stopped by the police.
The video was flipped around for some reason to make it look like she was sitting in the driver's seat. Butler played it up, saying police should stop associating being black and driving a nice car with crime. But then there came big holes in this story. First, police said they stopped the car because of a simple error. An officer mistyped the number plates. In a check on the car, police thought it actually came from Yorkshire to an area of London with lots of drugs. Suspicious. But then there was this. A UK news site has shown what it says is the unedited video shot by Butler, and it shows that the driver was not actually recognisably black, but looked kind of almost, well, white. Why would stopping a white-looking driver show that police were racist? Joining me from London is Brendan O'Neill, editor of the online Spike. Brendan, it's great to catch up with you. What do you make of this?
I think it's very fishy, actually. And, you know, Dawn Butler, just so your viewers know, Dawn Butler has a habit of saying rather strange things. She once claimed that 90% of giraffes are gay. She says that babies are born without. She says that babies are born without a biological sex and they kind of choose their sex for themselves. She once claimed to have reduced the rough sleeper rate in her constituency of Brent in London by 3,000, and someone pointed out that there are only 5,000 rough sleepers in the whole of the United Kingdom. So she has a habit of saying odd things that she then has to apologise for. But in this case, I think she's obviously rushed to the racism explanation for something that actually looks a lot more innocent. What seems to have happened is that prior to stopping the car, a police officer put the registration number into a system to see if it was an out-of-town car. He put in the registration number wrong by a couple of digits, apparently, and the car showed up as coming from Yorkshire to Hackney, and therefore they stopped it just to see who it was. So it looks like an innocent mistake. It doesn't look like they stopped the driver or Dawn Butler because she is black. And I think by rushing to that explanation, Dawn Butler is actually harming race relations in that part of London.
Yeah, but how the media gobbled that up, I mean, there seems to be such a desperate desire to see racism even where it doesn't exist. Brendan, can I switch to something that we've talked about before, and that's the coronavirus and government reactions to it. You've had deep concerns about this. Now, the British government at first resisted closing everything. Its experts say, you know, well, let's try for herd immunity, otherwise we'll never open, we'll always be vulnerable. The death toll then got very bad, lots of pressure on the government, went for shutdowns after all, which are now being eased in Britain. But here's the thing, Brendan. Here in Victoria, the state that went craziest with bans now has a death toll and a rate of new infection worse than does Britain, where we read that experts now say, well, England at least is almost reaching herd immunity. As COVID wards empty, the death toll plunges. What do you learn from this?
Well, you know, everyone really mocked the idea of herd immunity when Boris Johnson and others were kind of hinting at it a few months ago. But actually, herd immunity is really the only way to deal with a virus. And you can either achieve herd immunity because the virus spreads, or you achieve it through a vaccine. But that really is the only way to tackle a virus like this. And the way in which people mocked it struck me as very odd indeed. You know, there's a lot of good news from the UK at the moment. The number of hospital deaths from COVID has fallen by 99%. We now have a lower than average death rate from all diseases, all causes of death. 7 weeks in a row, it's been lower than the annual average. So fewer people are dying in Britain of everything, never mind just COVID. So things are looking good here at the moment. And as you say, some experts think we might be reaching herd immunity in England at least. But the story we still hear from the media is one of apocalypse and doom. We still haven't opened up properly. Pubs and restaurants are still very quiet. Lots of people have not gone back to work. So there's a disconnect between the good news from the UK and the slowness of our recovery. And I think the government now needs to come out and say, listen, we're doing good. The virus is behind us. We have to get back to normal life.
Brendan, you've warned about big government responses and the sort of dystopia that we're becoming sort of accustomed to, acclimatised to. Let me just describe life in Victoria to you right now, Brendan. We have in this state an 8 p.m. curfew. I need a piece of paper if I'm stopped in the street. We are not allowed to visit anyone. Most businesses have been shut by law. We cannot move more than 5 kilometres from our homes unless for work. We cannot meet more than one person at a time in the street. We cannot leave our home for exercise more than once a day and then only for an hour. How does that strike you listening to that?
I'm really shocked by everything I read about what's happening in Victoria at the moment. You know, Melbourne is one of my favourite cities in the world, and it's actually quite shocking to those of us outside of Australia to read about what is happening in that state. And I think it is incredibly authoritarian. I can't believe you guys have an actual curfew. I mean, I don't think there was a curfew anywhere else except perhaps in China at the very beginning. It's shocking, and I think it's something people should stand up to. Now, that doesn't mean being a COVID denier or arguing that the disease is not important or dangerous. We know that it is, particularly for older people, which is why care homes ought to be protected. There should be a ring of protection around care homes. But it does mean questioning whether the authority should have the right to institutionalise such an extraordinary power grab. Because if they can expand authoritarianism to this extent when there's a virus, then they can argue for doing the same in relation to other emergencies too. So I think it's incredibly important that the people of Victoria question how long this is going to go on for, whether it's necessary, and how quickly proper liberty can be restored, because otherwise there'll be problems in the future.
Brendan, great words. I just wish that in Victoria there were tilled fields to receive them. But unfortunately, there's a weird culture down here. Thank you so much indeed for your time.